Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. Now, first thing out of the way is my incredibly flamboyant shirt has made a return to the videos. So welcome back to the shirt. I'm not going to lie to you here folks, it is roasting. Yesterday was like, oh wow, it was hot. So anyways, I need as much light clothing as I can possibly get. So the whole point of today's video is not my shirt. Let's talk about some macro photography. Now, if you watched the video that was a few weeks ago, well, no, sure, it was probably maybe about a month or so ago now, where Orla and I were driving on the N222 in Portugal. At the very end of that video, I tried to do some macro photography of the grapevines, just to kind of tell a bit of a deeper story in relation to the kind of landscape we were seeing and so on and so forth. I'll let you go watch that. But it occurred to me then that I never really ever spoke about how I really managed to do that. Now, while I wasn't overly kind of blown away by the results of those particular images, today's video is all about shooting macro photography on a budget. I am broke. There's no question about that. And considering what's after recently happening as well, I am very broke. More news on that at some point. But I have had these extension tubes now for quite a while. I wonder if I can, there's the macro light on this lens. Yeah, no, stop looking at me, camera. Look at this. It thought the macro lens was my face. I wonder if I do it like all the cool YouTubers do, where they block your face. Can you see that now? So yeah, this is like the extension tubes that I have. Now there's a couple of reasons why you would want to use extension tubes. One is that they're very cheap. Macro lenses can range from a huge range. I have no idea. Lots, I assume. And but when you're on a budget, like me, you want to try and explore all facets of photography, and I enjoy macro photography. I absolutely love it. And there are some wonderful examples of macro photographers out there here on YouTube in particular as well. So one of the benefits of using extension tubes over a macro lens specifically is that there's no glass involved with this. Let me just take these off. It is essentially just a hollow tube that just adds distance between the lens and the sensor, which then enables you to be able to get a closer focus on the thing. I don't know if you'd call it like true macro photography. It's kind of, let's just call it macro-like photography. And so that's what these guys enable you to do. Now, I kind of splashed out a little bit. I bought these ages and ages ago, and I bought these particular ones here that have the contacts in them, so I'm still able to use my autofocus and things like that. Now, the examples that we're going to walk through a bit later on, I'm most likely manual focus anyway, because I might focus stack one or two. And so yeah, so they're a really, really good option for when you want to, you know, try macro photography. We'll call them a gateway drug into macro photography. And so yeah, fun times are about to be had. Now, the reason why I want to do this video now is that here in Portugal, and specifically in central Portugal, a lot of the land that's around here has a deadline in relation to when all the grasses get cut. And that's essentially due to the wildfires that can rip through this land during the summertime. It gets so dry and so hot that, like, if you looked at grass long enough, it would probably burst into flames. Or I might spontaneously combust and cause a wildfire, which nobody would enjoy. So here on this campsite, this is going to be it's not walking involved in this video. Here on this campsite, there's some lovely wildflowers that are strewn around. And that's essentially what we're going to use these for, is to try and photograph. So if you've made it this far and you got all the boring parts out of the way and you want to see me try my hand at some macro photography, then stick around and let's get shooting.
Welcome friends to the ASMR Photography Studio, and welcome to the first images of this week's video. Now, it actually feels like such a long time since I've recorded one of these classic ASMR photography labs, so I am delighted to be back at it once more. For this first image, I'm so happy with how it turned out. It was such a wonderful thing to see on the back of the camera, and as I went through processing the image, I was marveling at what was coming to life in front of me. Such a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, the only nitpick I would give this particular image is just that stalk that you can see here on the right side. I wish I had framed it a little bit better, or I probably could have even just gotten rid of it in Photoshop, but I don't know, it makes it look so weird that I thought I'd leave it in anyway, just because it's just so weird. It almost looks like a weird shadow. But needless to say, as a start, I am absolutely thrilled with this. So I could not believe my luck when this winged beast landed on the flower that I was photographing. Now look, it's not incredibly sharp just because I was just so unprepared for it, but I figured I would include it in here anyway, because getting the rare opportunity that whatever this is, I don't know what it is, somebody tell me in the comments what it is, getting the rare opportunity for something like this to happen, I was just so frantic and delighted that I was able to capture it in some relatively in focusedness, I think that's a word. But wow, I am absolutely delighted with it, and like I say, it may not be the technically sound image, but it's such a rare thing, I guess, at least for me anyways, that I decided to keep it in, and I'm super duper happy with how it turns out. Really love the colors, and of course then that winged beast making an appearance really sets off the whole frame for me. I'm super duper happy with it.
So this is the kind of scene that we're trying to get. Let me try and move the camera over this way. So I'm looking right down here at this little fella and absolutely loving it. It's just pure magic. The thing that I love about macro photography, oh, you can kind of see it there now in the back of the camera. It's changed angle. So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for. So for this particular example, I am going to try and focus stack this image. I just love the way that whatever you're focusing on here when you're shooting like this is the prominent element of the frame, and then it's just this gorgeous bokeh as it all falls away into the background. I haven't moved from this one particular spot yet because there's loads of lovely little yellow flowers. And as you guys would have already seen, I already showed you some examples of that, the flowers that have been taken. So far, I'm really enjoying it. It's such a wonderful kind of slow down kind of mentality when you're shooting like this. It's really fantastic. I think I even maybe caught the odd bug in the flower as well, which is like super. Look at this washing line here behind us. Wonderful. It's just really great having to not go so far to be able to photograph and create this kind of art that we're ultimately looking to create. Now, one thing that's also wonderful about photographing like this, and this made my last ramble before I show you the example, is you see the way some of the grasses are all brown and stuff. You don't really get to see any of that because the depth of field is just razor sharp. It adds this wonderful kind of background, and it makes the images pop. And particularly one thing I really love about these yellow flowers is that they are hopping off the screen, or at least the back of the camera. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you now if it turns out to be any good, and I'll let the mad ramblings talk a bit more about it and the focus stack if it worked. So let's have a look.
So here is the final result of the focus stacked image that I was rambling on about. Really, I'm super duper happy with how this particular one turned out, and as you'll see that we're like panning away from the image, I decided to keep the entire frame. I think I cropped it to a 4x5 because I just wanted the flower itself to remain the kind of central point of the image and then be surrounded by all of that kind of wonderful bokeh and background. I probably could have kept the crop really tight and still would have been happy with it, but for me, I think looking at it in a kind of wider perspective, if you will, it just adds a lot more context to the final image, and that I really love about it. So I'm super duper happy with how this one turned out. And just a fun fact, I actually focus stacked this in Luminar Neo, which I rarely ever really use, and I was just figuring I would give it a try. Sometimes Photoshop can be a bit hit and miss, but super duper delighted with how the focus stack turned out and the processing. So really love this one.
So right now I'm actually just wandering around the campsite. It's a wonderful campsite. If you ever do come to Argonal and you've got a camper van or a tent even, there's few people in tents, I would highly recommend this campsite. It's like run by the municipal, and it's so lovely, and thankfully we've got a nice bit of shade over where we are. But I did notice over here by the kind of the sinks, where you do your dishes and things, there are some beautiful purple flowers. So I really, really hope that they are still here. Oh, they are lovely. Look, I'm going to turn the camera around and let you see this now, because these are lovely. Now the only problem is that we might find that the wind, because that's proving to be a bit of an issue, but it's not so bad. So I'm going to run back and grab the camera and see about setting up a photograph of these absolutely gorgeous flowers. And 10 points to you if you can tell me the name of the flowers, because I have no idea. Cool, let me run back and get the camera.
So here is the result of looking at these wonderful purpley bluish flowers. Hopefully somebody leaves a comment to let me know what they are, because I am absolutely in love with this photograph. I'm so happy that I framed it in the way that I did, because I love the fact that the depth of field is so razor sharp when it comes to photographing like this, that the flower that is in focus at the middle is almost like vignetted by the surrounding flowers, and I love that about this. It's like a tunnel that we're being drawn into. And of course then the kind of macro effect that's going on here as well is really, really singing to me. I really, really love this one. The purple, the blues in the frame, and then they're beautifully kind of popping off the green in the background. So yeah, for me, it's actually probably make a nice looking print. I know I say that a lot, but someday I promise I'll print something. So really, 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 really happy with how this particular one turned out. Now for these last two images, I didn't do any kind of talking to the camera, because I had actually left the camera back at the campsite. It was just so warm, and I was really, really afraid the little gizmo was going to overheat and just like explode. So I decided just to kind of ramble around with my camera in my hand, and I managed to capture this frame and the next one that we're going to look at as well. Really, really, really love this one. I love the fact that the thing is just teeming with life, almost like looking, down at a Google map kind of view of some roads. And I really, really love that about this image. And I'm actually quite surprised at the sharpness of this image and of the previous ones. But I don't know, there's something particular about this one that really, I guess it's just whatever the f-stop was and the sentence were, just must have just been on point, and I really, really love that about this image for sure. And then moving on to the next image, this was a bit off the cuff. I actually, don't tell anyone, but I actually took the head of the flower off because it was just so windy, and I put it down on the ground and held it a bit so I could try and keep it still. But funnily enough, I actually shot this handheld with one hand while the other hand was holding the flower. So I'm really, really happy with that result, and I love the pop of that tiny little flower that's just surrounded by this wonderful white of these even smaller flowers still. So overall, absolutely thrilled with how all of these images turned out, and a very, very worthwhile experiment, and super, super happy.
So folks, I really, really hope you enjoyed those photographs. Now, I haven't looked at them yet, but I'm about to. But from what I can see from the back of the camera, I'm like really, really enjoying it. So I really, really hope they worked out well. Now, in terms of whether you should buy a macro lens versus the extension tubes, I think if macro photography was going to be something that you would just kind of, play with, in like me, say now, for instance, extension tubes 100%. And then if you find yourself really enjoying it, because it's a wonderful pursuit trying to frame, and your focus, oh my god, I have to be so on point, then as I say, if you find yourself really enjoying it, absolutely, probably the macro lenses, the dedicated macro lenses, are probably going to do you a way better job. Now, obviously, with the photographers that I watch on YouTube, where I see those people using macro lenses, their images are just outstandingly gorgeous, and I would assume the ones that you all looked at are like paling in comparison. but as like a test and as a fun kind of experiment, it's been a real joy. So I think, yeah, for sure, extension tubes, macro photography, it's a good gateway into the whole world. And if you enjoy that kind of photography, then I would absolutely recommend you pick yourself up a set, particularly the ones with the autofocus. If you can get the connectors, you pay maybe like an extra €5 or €6 or so. It's really not much in the difference. So I would probably recommend you do that instead of, unless you enjoy manually focusing. Now, as you would have seen some of the images I talked about, I did manually focus as well, um, just to make sure, just to pinpoint. But other than that, super duper excited, and I look forward to experimenting more with macro photography. Uh, for me, it's a very there's like a fine art kind of vibe to it. And if you remember way back when I went to the coast, to the Dublin coast, to try fine art photography, I really enjoyed that process. And for me, I get that same kind of excitement when I'm like zoomed in all this way and creating this kind of macro vibe, and I really enjoy that about it. And I just realized as well, it's all green here behind me, so there's a potential green screen. I'm gonna see right now if I can chroma in some kind of, like, I don't know, madness behind me right now. If it doesn't work, it's not gonna happen. But if it did, I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. But other than that, I'm gonna leave this mad rambling here, folks. So if you did enjoy this video and you feel like you want to, explore some macro photography, just go to YouTube. There's some wonderful, way better macro photographers than me on YouTube, and you will be just as blown away by their work as I am with it. And it's a huge inspiration behind this video. And I also thought as well I would take a little bit of a break from the review videos that I have planned, just to kind of get back to some classic kind of nice photography. And I didn't have to go very far. Anyways, that's the mad ramble. If you enjoyed the video, folks, do please hit that like button. And if you fancy following along for some like pretty impressive adventures that are coming up very shortly, you're most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.